All right, in other news, it's the second day of the 13th Buy Local Summit and Expo taking place in Sandton, that's in Johannesburg. Hosted by Proudly South African, the summit has called on government to ease regulatory requirements for small businesses. Over and above that, Proudly SA has announced the launch of an online shop next month to boost the sale of locally made products. Watching this story is our reporter Liabo Setho, who joins us now live from Johannesburg. And Liabo, we live in very interesting geopolitical times, and I imagine it's within that context that localization becomes a whole lot more attractive.
This way.
Absolutely, and good morning. Yesterday, the MEC for Finance and Economic Development, Lebram Maile, actually touched on that to say with everything that's happening with geopolitical tensions, this is the perfect time for countries to focus. In fact, other countries are already doing it, and that South Africa, with its strategic minerals endowment, is in the perfect position to begin to actually look at localization and to begin to strengthen it. This was not the only highlight that was said. I was quite impressed with the fact that Proudly SA also launched its own online shop or e-commerce platform where people who want to buy local, it has been made easy for them to be able to do so. But also interestingly, the board chairperson of Proudly SA yesterday, he mentioned about the issue of easing regulatory burden. We all know about how over-regulation of small businesses is hurting small businesses, and he made an impassioned plea to please for government to re-look at that. One of the other interesting things that happened yesterday, was that there was a peaceful march outside the venue. Designers of all sizes and of all statuses were doing a peaceful march, basically marching against counterfeit goods, illicit goods, and talking about how much those hurt their businesses. They've even made, I spoke to David Tlale, a well-known fashion designer, who spoke about how a certain factory in Cape Town, I think it's House of Funati, he said, had been employing about 500 people, and it had to close down. We know that how easy and much more affordable or cheap it is to be able to get counterfeit goods for people maybe who are cash-strapped. But one of the exhibitors that's on my left, in fact, just before I went on camera, told me about someone who bought boots, because he's into PPE, someone who bought boots 3 times, and 3 times the quality was not up to scratch because the material that is being used is probably not of great quality. And he says this is the reason why you probably have to pay a little bit more for quality. I could spend the whole day explaining what has been said on the sidelines and even at the conference itself. But I've invited the CEO of Proudly SA, Mr. Justus Mashimbe, to just wrap up yesterday for us and tell us what we can expect today. Mr. Mashimbe, thank you so much. On Sunday, when you and I spoke, you told me about how there's meetings. I think on Sunday there are about 700 meetings that were confirmed. By the end of yesterday, how many of those meetings were confirmed, and what is the significance of those?
So we managed to exceed 800 in terms of meetings actually held between buyers representing retailers as well as those representing large corporates and conglomerates looking for suppliers that they can list on their databases who will supply them with locally made products. And so what we then have done is we've made it possible for that program to even extend beyond the Summit and Expo. The program will run for another 3 months just to make sure that those who still have to seal the deal by way of providing further information or in instances where some of the meetings could not necessarily happen can still be able to do so because buyers were still showing interest. We were still getting inquiries yesterday, and I assume that now that the summit is still continuing and some are seeing this kind of interviews and some of the communication we've been sending them as they respond, they will still want to engage with some of these guys. So it's a very successful program in terms of the matchmaking exercise, which is deliberately ensuring that all of these guys live here with some sort of access to market opportunity, because we're trying to reclaim the share of the market that has been lost to imports. Some of the stuff that you spoke about, whether it's illicit, whether it's counterfeit, or even those that are coming to the country legally. The biggest challenge we sit with is the issue of unemployment. And some of these guys will tell you they employ 3, 4, 5, 6 people, but with these others that they're concluding will be able to add to the capacity they have.
I was assured yesterday that the issue of the e-commerce and the online shop is not a April's Fool's joke because it's on the the 1st of April. But I know that there's a lot of more small businesses that will be interested because this is a great market for them and they'll be able to get more customers. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've looked at where consumers are looking and buying their products, and we found that the advent of buying on online platforms is really growing. And so a couple of years ago, we then started partnering with some third-party online platforms that are affiliated with us, and we started listing products of members on those platforms. But our members were still saying, they want more. They want a dedicated platform because sometimes it's not easy to navigate and find those products on those third-party platforms. And so with the assistance of the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, we're given funding. We've built the online store. And you're correct, it's not an April Fool's joke because the online store does exist. We did showcase the video yesterday of someone doing a purchase. We just need to switch it on, and it made sense to switch it on when the financial year starts on the 1st of April so that we give a chance to all of our guys to be able to list. We have a team working around engaging these guys and still adding products, so that by the time we switch it on, there's enough by way of products on the online platform so that you don't have a customer going and looking for a specific thing and they don't find it because they might not come back. And so the intention is to populate it over the next couple of weeks and ensure that by the 1st of April we switch it on.
Judging by what we are seeing right next to you, the clothing that are on display, it is evident that we have no shortage of skills, we have no shortage of ideas, we have no shortage of designs, but that peaceful walk yesterday really hit home when you hear a designer talk about the impact that illicit trading, that the impact that counterfeit goods has on that. What can you as Proudly SA do to try and help designers and local manufacturers and local businesses?
Look, we worked with the designers to organize the match, and the intention was to try and highlight some of the challenges that they are having. And because of the proximity we have to government, we thought it would be easy to craft that memorandum and petition government to say these are some of the concerns. And it was not just, as much as it was received by the DTI, it was a petition that had elements of Competition Commission in it, SARS in it because of customs. We included CIPC because there are a lot of trademark issues around the Merchandise Marks Act, around how do you protect people's IP. And so there were various government institutions that were cited in the memorandum that we gave over to government yesterday. And we also gave another one to the retailers, and that is where we're spending a lot of our effort as Proudly South African, outside of the consumer education that we're doing, is we're engaging retailers to say increase levels of local content on your shelf spaces. We got a commitment yesterday from an FMCG retailer that is now at 92%, and we're saying to the rest, follow suit. Some of the clothing and textile retailers who are part of the sectoral master plan already have local content exceeding 50%, somewhere as low as 15% when we started. But there are others who are still lagging behind. We are honestly, to be frank, we're targeting the global retailers who come into the country, take a big share of their market, operating legally. But there's no local content. They are not making product in South Africa. They're not putting local content on their shelves, and that is our appeal through the memo that we gave to the Retail Federation yesterday to say let's engage all of these guys. Some of them have worked with our designers, bring back those partnerships so that we ensure that we support not only the designers but the CMTs. The value chain is extensive, and if we can just start incorporating some of those elements that are part of the value chain into what these global retailers are doing and selling in South Africa, we'll see a difference.
I was just telling Ayanda now about also the issue of affordability. At the end of the day, you have customers that need to buy these products, but if customers do not have the money, do not have a disposable income because of various reasons, whether it's unemployment or whatever reason, how do we make it affordable for South Africans? Because I understand the operational costs and the input costs that go into making this garment, for instance, because of everything that is happening, the electricity issue and the high electricity, the water, the wages, etc. But how can we honestly make it affordable so that someone, this is as I wrap up, that someone is able to actually purchase a locally made garment?
When we look at the goods that come into the country legally, and we look at the cost, we are not far off. And for those who have products that are still relatively cheaper when you compare, apples with apples, if they're the same tier in terms of where the products are, we're not far off. And when you compare with those, what you see is that it's economies of scale. is the volume that they have. And so if we ramp up by way of giving shelf space on retail shelves to South African designers and producers, you are then giving them an opportunity to sell larger quantities, and input costs will be reduced. And so as a result, we will then achieve that price point. We have achieved it. There are many stores that are playing at a lower level in South Africa, without naming any of them now, but there are many where that price point has been achieved, and South Africans are buying those. And the country of origin tells you it's made in South Africa. We just need to ramp up now in terms of making it available and accessible for customers. If you put it on retail shelves, they will find it. But if you put imported items, more than having South African items, you are going to have consumers pick those up. And when do we achieve that economies of scale as a result of the volume that is purchased?
Mr. Mashimbese, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And well, you've heard it for yourself. There's so many things going on. Favorite of mine, you might know by now, is interacting with the SMEs that are exhibiting here. But there's also conversations that are taking place in the background. And a little later on, we will wrap everything up nicely so that our viewers who may have missed this interview and others that will do throughout the day, they get the benefit and the understanding of what was concluded here at the proudly SA Buy Local Summit and Expo. And with that, I hand over back to you in studio.
Oh, what a lovely day at the office for you, Liabo. Thanks very much indeed. Always in an enviable position with these expos. Liabo Setho live to us there from the Sandton Convention Center.